Don't remember before the war because I was too young. But after we were really poor, and it was very hard because my mom had to do a lot of odd jobs to raise us, and we didn't have our dad, so it was just my mom and us, and we were scared most of the time because you got to be very careful what you say.
Where was your dad during this time?
Yeah, he was taken to the re-education camp in the north, in North Vietnam.
Why was he taken there?
Because he was part of the military before the war. He worked for the U.S. He worked for the South Vietnamese army. And so when the communists took over, they took everyone that was connected to the previous government to re-education camp. So when we first got there, we actually lived in an apartment in a Vietnamese community, but we didn't live there very long. And then we rented a house farther away. It was mostly a Caucasian neighborhood. That's only because the owner of that house was a friend of someone that we knew, I think. And so that's how we rented her house. And then, when they sold the house, we rented another house, but we were used to kind of the non-Vietnamese community. And we liked it that way because it's more quiet. So we rented places in more of a Caucasian neighborhood. So it was quiet. So we didn't have a whole lot of Vietnamese neighbors, and we just kept to ourselves pretty much. I actually didn't know anything about the U.S. I just knew that I wouldn't have a future in Vietnam. So that's why I decided to leave. But I actually didn't know anything about the U.S. because all that information was suppressed. So at first we were in Garden Grove for a little bit, and then we were in Costa Mesa, and then we were in Santa Ana, but right next to Costa Mesa. And so that's why I went to Costa Mesa High. We were renting, so if they if they didn't rent anymore, if they sold the house, then we would have to find another place to live. So it just depended on what the owners did with their houses, and then we would have to move. I don't feel like, oh, I'm Vietnamese, I'm different, or I have a hard time doing this, I have a hard time doing that. I just go to school like everybody else, and I go to work like everybody else, and I don't sit there and say, gosh, I can't do this because I'm Vietnamese, I think my mom is pretty assimilated, even though she doesn't think so. She still feels more comfortable with Vietnamese just because she doesn't speak English. I think my mom still feels intimidated being around non-Vietnamese just because she feels like she can't talk to them. She might still think that they look down on Vietnamese people, even though they don't. Yeah, she feels that they might be judging her, but they probably don't. When we came here and then we started watching videos about the war and things like that, that's when my mom would tell me more about what happened, but not back then. Grandpa would talk a little bit about the war, what it was like, but not as much. I would ask my mom more because we would watch those music videos together. And
music videos?
The music videos,
like those sad Vietnamese music videos?
Yeah, and then they would have themes about before the war and things like that, and I would ask what happened. My mom would tell me about it, but my dad didn't talk much about it. He would tell stories sometimes about being in jail and being in the war. but not a lot. As a rule, we did not talk about the war. We did not talk about my dad because we didn't want to get in trouble. I think about it more than my sisters do, to be honest.
Oh, why is that?
So I don't know. So I talk to you guys about it, but I don't think my sisters talk too much about it. And I tell my kids about it, but I don't know if my sisters. She told us about her trip, so we know about what happened to.
Oh, yeah, she was separate, right?
Yeah, we went separate. So we kind of know about what happened on each other's trip, but we don't sit there and just talk. So we're all busy doing our things. It was really hard at first. Every time I thought about it, I would cry. But now, after a while, I don't have that emotional reaction anymore. To me, it's just something that happened. But I'm not emotional about it. I used to be for a long time. And I used to cry every time I went to the ocean and heard the sound of the ocean. It was really hard at first to go to the beach. I changed my name because no one could say my name right. And so when I went to places, they would call my name and I wouldn't respond. I would just sit there because they didn't recognize my name, so I had to change it. But I chose this name because I read about a character in a book, and I liked the character. What was your own name? It was an orphan, a mixed race orphan, and she went through a lot of struggles, and the character touched me, so I picked her name. What was your old name? My Who. No, My Who. My Who. My Who. My parents came over, and it's hard enough being a teenager, and I wasn't very outgoing, so I didn't, and I'm not cool like the other Vietnamese kids who just came over. I was a little bit of a very awkward child, but then on top of that, my mom kept saying that I was whitewashed and that I had forgotten my origins and I've forgotten where I came from when I didn't. And so that was the hardest part because I didn't really fit in with the American kids and I didn't really fit in with the cool Vietnamese kids. But I was very depressed for much of my high school years. I just didn't know what to do, and whatever I did, I felt like my parents felt that I had betrayed, and to me, that was the hardest part, not knowing where you belong, really. I told myself that I'm not going to go back as long as the communists are still in control, because I just feel I risked my life coming here, and I don't want to go back when nothing's really changed. Well, it feels like there's more freedom, and the economy's better there, but there's still no real freedom. There's no religious freedom, no freedom of speech. It's still a very oppressive government. But I would love to come back if the communist regime is gone.